How the Switch outsold the Wii U. Nintendo just announced that it has shipped almost 15 million units of the Switch. That means in less than a year, it sold more units than the entire lifespan of the Wii U. But what were the key factors that gave Nintendo a Phoenix rising from the ashes type of story? To understand the Switch's success, we have to recognize the Wii U's failure. I use the term fail loosely. With an estimated 13.5 million units shipped, is that really a failure? By Nintendo standards, yes. Considering the DS line has sold 154 million units and its predecessor, the Wii, sold over 100 million units, in their eyes, and in the eyes of the public, the Wii U is considered a flop. To be fair, if I sold 13.5 million of anything, I'd be ecstatic. But I'm a schmuck YouTuber, not a billion-dollar video game company. So what were the reasons the Wii U fell so hard? While Mario Kart 8 was the best-selling game on the console, and it was a great game, in my opinion, other Nintendo IPs were getting stale. Smash Bros. Was the same old same with not much new added. The Super Mario franchise, in my opinion, was in need of an overhaul. More regurgitation of the same stuff we had seen in other Mario games. And no new Zelda game? I realized Breath of the Wild was released at the same time as the Switch version, but who wants the old console one? I personally bought Twilight Princess on the Wii instead of the GameCube, and Breath of the Wild was no different. Third-party developers would be the Capcoms, Activisions, and Rockstars of the world. In other words, games not made by Nintendo. EA and Bethesda both said their focus would be producing games on PlayStation and Xbox. But why? Blake Jorgensen, the CFO of EA, gave us the answer. He was quoted as saying, "We don't make games anymore for the Wii or the Wii U because the market is not big enough. The PS Vita, the Sony product, we don't make games for that anymore because the market is too small. So it's all about the size of the market." Plain and simple, they didn't feel they would make money if they produced games on the Wii U. After all, companies can't survive if they don't make money. Honestly, I can understand this. If I had a PlayStation 4 and Wii U, which I do, and a game came on both consoles, I'm buying the PlayStation version. I like hearing the ding of trophies popping, so please, Mr. GameStop employee, give me the PlayStation version so I can earn my virtual pats on the back. In my opinion, one of the biggest slip-ups for Nintendo was how they marketed the Wii U. Specifically how it was marketed to parents. You know, the ones with the money. I have friends that work at GameStop that were constantly having to tell me they were having to explain to parents that the Wii U was a new console. They also stated that parents were confused by the name, thinking it was some kind of add-on or just a new model of the Wii. Even up to 6 months before the release of the Switch, they were still trying to explain this to consumers. I believe this because I myself had to have the same conversation with friends who didn't know it was different. Imagine little Junior puts a Wii U on his or her Christmas list. An uneducated parent sees Wii and says, they already have one. Most parents aren't like me, or those of you watching this video right now. We keep up with these things because we're most likely getting it for ourselves. But parents like us aren't the majority. This confusion could have been avoided if they named the Wii U something different. Consumers need to know they are getting something different, something fresh, the next new item. Sony did it right. PlayStation, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and the next one will probably be called the PlayStation 5. You know you are getting the newest generation of console with this system. Nintendo has always changed the name of their console so it makes people know they're getting the new hotness. Nintendo Entertainment System. Super Nintendo Entertainment System. While this could have been confusing, you gotta understand that this was right when the console wars really started. The marketing campaigns for Super Nintendo were in your face all the time. There was no way you didn't know this wasn't an NES add-on. Nintendo 64, GameCube, Wii, then Wii U, with no clear definition of what that was. To this day, I have no idea what the thinking was behind naming the Wii U so close to the Wii. Maybe there was a bit of arrogance there with the wild success of the Wii. Enter the Switch. New name, new design, new functionality. At time of filming, Nintendo has announced almost 15 million units have been shipped worldwide in less than a year. What changed? What did Nintendo do different? Well, to be honest, they did the exact opposite of what made the Wii U fail. The release of a new Legend of Zelda game will sell consoles, plain and simple. Breath of the Wild was a launch title for the Switch. New console, new Zelda game equal console sales. Any fan of the franchise needs this game. Hands down, game of the year for me. I went through the game twice, putting upwards of 250 hours into it. 250 hours. To put that in perspective, sit down and play this game for 10 and a half straight days around the clock. That's what 250 hours looks like. The last time I put that much time into any game was GTA 5, and that's only because Rockstar keeps adding free DLC and updates to keep me interested. I've never played another game that came close to the amount of time I put into Breath of the Wild. If you're a fan of the Mario Brothers franchise, then this game alone will make you want to switch. This was the fresh redesign I've been waiting on in a Mario game. Playing this game for the first time made me feel like a kid again. I got the same feeling of awe and astonishment that I had playing Super Mario Bros. 3 for the first time, and I loved it. If it wasn't for Breath of the Wild, this would be game of the year for me. This is absolutely the best Mario game since Mario 64. Everyone is back on board with Nintendo and the Switch. Why? Well, because they can make money, and money is the name of the game. The Switch is selling so well now, I would expect to see Switch exclusives from third-party developers. And that's not a bad thing, at least for Nintendo. Imagine this scenario. Hey random gamer, want to play the newest Madden? You can only play it on the Switch. Well, maybe that's a bad example, but you get my point. Marketing has been key here. Parents know the Switch is new, they know they can only get first-party games on the Switch, and they know their kids want one. This was the recipe that has worked for decades. For some reason, someone didn't follow the directions with the Wii U, but Chef Boyardee took the spatula back and added the correct ingredients. Nintendo can't even fart right now without people talking about it. Every new game they release or announce becomes the buzz on the internet. They're porting Wii U games over to the Switch because no one bought them the first time. While I'm not a fan of ports, I have to admit that even I bought Mario Kart 8 on the Switch. The console handheld hybrid is genius. At first I wasn't sold. I even said, if I'm spending $300 on something, it's never leaving the house. That was the old man in me talking, honestly. I travel a lot, and the first time I was in a hotel, bored, with nothing to do, I immediately wished I had my Switch so I can continue looking for moons in Mario Odyssey. Needless to say, that changed my mind and my Switch comes with me on every road trip now. As much as I love my PlayStation 4, it's hard to travel with it, especially on a plane. The Switch comes on a plane with me, and before I know it, the captain is saying please turn off all electronics. The price point is right. It was cheaper than the PS4 and Xbox One when they were released, and will only get cheaper from there. This is something Nintendo has always done, so that shouldn't be a big surprise. While third-party support is important, so are the first-party titles. They've hit home runs with Zelda and Odyssey. The future game releases such as Yoshi and Labo are going to continue to elevate Switch's stock, so to speak. Fresh gaming ideas that push the limits of the hardware are going to keep the Switch selling. Show us what the Switch can do. Show us it's something more than a pretty console with ports from the Wii U. So far, they've done that. As long as they continue to do so, there's no telling how many units the Switch winds up selling. While the Wii U had a lot of shortcomings, it wasn't a bad console. I think it will be one of those situations where it's not going to be completely appreciated until 15 years down the road. Much like the Dreamcast. But the Switch is the now, and it's letting the world know that Nintendo is here to stay. Personally, I love my Switch, and that's not me being a Nintendo fanboy, that's me believing in the product. A product that continues to provide entertainment for hours on end. I only hit on a few bullet points on why the Wii U failed and why the Switch has been successful. If there's anything I left out, please feel free to leave it in the comments. And please, feel free to let me know your thoughts on your Switch.
Funding for the Game Chasers and the Shady J Show is made possible from our patrons on Patreon. Thank you.